Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. Can you play too many video games? Well, tune in and find out. We're going to pick up right where we left off. It's the middle of December, 1982. And we were last moving very slowly, playing the type-in game Munchkin Attack for the Atari home computer. Let's see what the next release is.
Quite organized.
Atari Home Filing Manager.
What's the plan?
Our next video game is Name This Game? I don't know what to make of it. Name This Game. I am not familiar with this game, but did anyone actually see this on the shelves and was confused? Name this game and win $10,000. So I guess if you saw it on the shelf, you'd be very intrigued because it's another video game contest, similar to what we've seen with Sword Quest. The only game we've seen so far in the Sword Quest series has been Earthworld up to this point, and there's been other game contests we've seen, but this one is pretty blatant. I mean, right on the box, you get to name the game. This one's only available on the Atari 2600, and it marks the 197th game we've seen on the Atari up to this point. The front of the box, I can already figure out what the game's going to be like. We could name it right now if you wanted to. Flip it over in the back, they have an example of the screenshot, and they have information about the sweepstakes and how it works. This is by US Games, and they're not new to Chronologically Gaming. Everything that US Games has done has been on the Atari 2600. This is the 9th time we've seen them, and the very first time we saw them was Space Jockey. After Space Jockey, they did Commando Raid. It looks kind of familiar. And then we also saw Towering Inferno, which was the other firefighting game you could play on the Atari 2600. And then the bizarre Sneak and Peek we also checked out, as well as the pseudo-educational word zapper. After that was Egomania, which was another let's catch the different things before they drop on the ground kind of game. Then we saw Entombed after that, which was a very well done multiplayer game for the Atari. And the most recent one was Raft Rider, which was very unique and interesting. And then now, so US Games has been a little bit all over the place, and now it turns our heads to this latest Name This Game sweepstakes. Very strange. All right, after the box, what other artwork do we have for Name This Game? Well, we have the reconstructed one. Looks like some of them say $10,000 and some of them do not, or they changed it. Oh, there we go. So someone in the chat, Marshall's telling us when they were selling it, it felt like the beginning of the end because you're trying to convince people to buy the game and win $10,000. It looks like it's a stretch, right? Yeah, I can see that. So here's the ad you would have seen in magazines at the time. Name this game and you can win $10,000 and be eligible to win one of over 1,000 other prizes. So it shows you the sweepstakes and explains what it is. When you buy the game inside, there's like a form to fill out. The first prize offered to the person who come up with a most original name to describe this game. However, just like they're describing in the chat, US Games sadly went bankrupt and this contest was never completed. So this game actually never got named. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to play the game. Everyone that's here live on the show, you can throw out all the names you'd like for the game to go in a sweepstakes. We're going to see who has the best named game of all the other ones that could be picked up to this point. So sadly, yes, this was the kind of the beginning of the end, as we're going to see next year in 1983. This was released later in Europe by Carrere Video, and this is the German advertising flyer with some other games from US Games we haven't seen yet. So while this game, oh look, they actually have the name Octopus on the front of their game. So when they released it over there, it was released as an actual title. They didn't call it Name This Game. Only in North America was that one. But the rest of the games, we're going to see some more from US Games. This is not the end of them. Here's the cartridge for Name This Game and win $10,000 with some artwork and example of the screenshot. Yeah, I know it's all about the money, right? Yeah, so here we go. This is the full contest or the sweepstakes inside the box of what you're supposed to do. You name the title of the game. And there's some other games from other US Games choices, and then the official rules of the sweepstakes. You can read it at your leisure, and then we even have a letter that was included from Atari Mania of example of what it would be like to be part of that or close to the sweepstakes. All right, so besides that, when you actually buy the game, how do you play this game? Name this game. It's a 1 or 2 player full color game. 2 players means you're going to take turns, not at the same time. You've discovered a long, sought after buried treasure, and just when you thought your troubles were over, things get really tough. There's a persistent shark who thinks that the treasure belongs to him, and he is after you. Of course he is. And if that wasn't enough to contend with, there's a big old octopus sitting right above your trove who keeps reaching down to check things out. There you are, shooting at the shark, fighting off the octopus tentacles, and you realize your oxygen supply is running low. Your partner in the boat keeps dropping you a line, and you better run over and fill up. It's not going to be easy to hold onto your treasure now that you found it, but we're sure you're not going to give up without a fight. So there you go. Explains the picture right here. Where's the octopus? It takes up over half the screen. And then the oxygen line, so very nice. There's the setup instructions that we're going to need to know there. And the difficulty switches are a little backwards. Position A is normal and B is greater when usually Atari games flip-flop that. And the controls are just move your joystick left and right to move the move the diver, and then push the fire button to fire at the shark. The octopus you can hit with the tentacles to get them to retract, and then you get your oxygen replenished. The game variations are essentially difficulty skill levels. So there's not really variations. Where did the variations go? All the Atari variations, the really cool ones that change the level and make things different, they've disappeared. Now we just have difficulty levels. But there's the scoring. Why are we playing these games? For the points. Who can get the high score? Who's got the best score in your house? Find out here in the manual. Then we get some playing hints, very, very nice, explaining the later waves and what it's like to go farther and farther. And then if you want to write US games, hopefully you can write them before they go bankrupt and tell them about the game. This one was also available in PAL regions, like we said before. Let's pop in that game and play Name This Game. This is by James Wixted Design Associates, Roger Booth, Sylvia Day, Don Drubbin, Russ Traeger, and Henry Sewell IV. All of them. This is the 6th time we've seen James Wixted Design Associates on the show, and those other people that we've seen have been programming a lot of the other games for US games. The cartridge size for this one is a 4 kilobyte cartridge, 4 kilopower to play this sucker. All right, so the game modes, you can see I'm switching out between game 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's also a hissing sound happening in the background. Not a good sign if your game's hissing at you. But if you remember, a lot of times you were hooked up with the RF switch in the back based on the antenna, and some of the games did make this sound. So it makes me feel more like it's December 1982. So anyway, we're just going to start with game mode 1. Hit reset. Got a nice little ditty there, and I believe that's public domain. Anyone can recognize that one? Then when we get in the game, it starts whenever you fire. So whenever you fire off the first shot, now you can move left and right. We have the shark that's moving left and right, and then each one of the tentacles has a tip or an end that you have to aim for. When you hit the tip, then it retracts back. And at the bottom of the screen, you have a green bar that's telling you when the level's going to end, as if there's a timer. It's not really a timer. But then you have a red bar below that. That's your oxygen supply. And then your buddy in the boat's bringing your oxygen down for you. Very simple. Move left, move right, and fire. And you can see as the shark gets lower, it goes faster and faster. Well, I've lost my voice again. And there you go, the level ends, and you move to the next one. The next stage doesn't start until you push the button. So right now you can take a drink, go make a sandwich, and then when you push the button, then the game begins. Down at the bottom, the pile is your treasure that you're supposed to be defending. However, the only real quaint thing that can happen is if the shark gets you, you have a fun animation, but the tentacles of the octopus never really steal the treasure. So the treasure that's there, you're supposed to be defending, but you'll never see them take the treasure. We'll get some more oxygen there. I'm going to let the shark take me so you can see the... It's only if it gets to the bottom row. So very reminiscent of Space Invaders. But then after you die, you can keep going after you push a button. There we go. So this marks another fixed shooter on Chronologically Gaming. It's the 420th fixed shooter that we've seen so far on the show, the 58th that we've seen across all home consoles, and the 27th that we've seen on the Atari 2600 alone. That's how many move left, move right shooters, or, you know, stay on the same screen shooters that we've seen so far. It does offer diving, snorkeling, like, gameplay. And the octopus gives me vibes and reminds me of the octopus that we saw from the Nintendo Game & Watch handheld. We also played another game called Lockjaw on the Atari 2600. And Marine Boy in the arcade. Deep Six on the Puta, or Tommy Tudor. And then more recently, we just saw Deep Sea Adventure on the Creative Vision. More undersea diving video games. Yeah, that's true. This one's not quite broken, but you can see the simplicity behind it. In my opinion, when you buy a game that's called Name This Game, it already feels like there's some kind of jank involved, or something that's not completed yet. At this point on the show, this is an aquatic underwater setting. We've played over 40 games that have this kind of setting for a video game. Games like Calypso, Swimmer, and also in Jungle King, one of the modes had swimming. And it had an air gauge, too. There wasn't a way to well, I guess you could go to the surface to refill your air. But that means this includes a gameplay element, which is drowning. If your oxygen goes to the bottom, then you drown. It's all over. We've even played as games where we were the shark, like Shark Attack in the arcade. Or we played as fish underwater, like Salmon Run on the Atari home computer. Or Funky Fish. That was in the arcade. Let's get... Go to the other game modes. It slowly increases in difficulty, but what you see here is the entire game. This is it. So now, after seeing a little bit of how the game works, did anyone throw out Sea Shanty? Okay, Sea Shanty would be a good name for the game. What would everyone... Janktopus? That'd be better than Octopus, which was in the other regions. Oh, there you go. And James has already thrown out a rating. Very nice. I know. We have someone that gives some love to the game, that loved the game when it came out. And it is too bad. And if it makes you feel better, it did get an actual game in PAL regions. But what would I name the game? I would call it something like Leviathan Rising, or Deep Sea Siege, or Kraken Commander, or Tentacle Terror. Something like that. Kraken. That's a good one. Sea Sickness. Very nice. Some of the other names that this does go by, like potential actual names that it went by, was Guardians of Treasure, Treasures of the Deep, Octopus, and Whale Hunter. So this one actually had names, they just weren't available in certain regions. Whale Hunter was a really rare one from Taiwan. But how do you compare this to the other fixed shooters that are available? Well, as of this point, we played a lot of really good fixed shooters. Some of the best fixed shooters we played on all home consoles have been like Space Invaders. It's still really good. The best ones you can play on the Atari 2600 right now are Space Invaders. Demon Attack's available to play right now. You flip a fixed shooter on its side, and you got a really good one. Turmoil is also available on the Atari 2600, as well as Communist Mutants from Space. You could call it cheating because it's supercharged, has more memory. Then you also have Cosmic Arc that's out there. You have Commando Raid that you could play, that we already mentioned. Encounter at L5 is another one. It's pretty good. Mega Mania is a really well done fixed shooter that you can play. And then the classic Carnival is also available to play on home consoles. Demons to Diamonds. Strange name, but it's alright to play, and it's 2 players simultaneous. Gorf is also available on the Atari 2600, as well as Puyan, another example of let's turn a fixed shooter on its side. Don't move left and right, you can move up and down now and shoot stuff. Then there's also Threshold, the port from home computers. Phoenix is available to play on the Atari 2600. And then on other consoles like the Astrocade, there's Galactic Invasion, which was first named Galaxian, and they had to change the name. On the Intellivision, there's Astro Smash. Really, really fun. Mixes asteroids with a fixed shooter. And then the Demon Attack port on the Intellivision. On a more obscure home console, on the Creative Vision, we saw Sonic Invader. And then on the Magnavox Odyssey 2, there's Attack of the Time Lord. The more recent console, the Atari 5200, has Space Invaders that you could be playing right now, as well as Galaxian. So there's a lot of competition or other fixed shooter examples that you can see here that this one has to compete against. I would say, of all the games you could play right now across all home consoles, this one's fairly average. I'd even say because of the simplicity and because they're not including so many other game variations or modes, I'd be willing to say bad, but actually no one's gone down to the 2-star range. So of all the games you could play across all home consoles, if you're just now tuning in, we rate everything on a 5-star rating scale. If you think this game is broken, of all the games you could play on home consoles, you'd rate it somewhere in the 1-star. If you think it's bad, it's somewhere in the 2-star. If it's average, somewhere in the 3-star. If it's above average or excellent, it's somewhere in the 4-star. And if it's one of the best games you could play on all home consoles right now in December 1982, it's somewhere in the 5-star range. Most people are saying average, very 3. I actually don't want to say a solid 3 because of the simplicity, because of everything else that's available. I see a lot of people with the love for Mega Mania, but there is some people throwing out 3.5 stars, so very, very nice. After everything we've seen so far across all home consoles, name this game. Because it's the beginning of the end, I was going to say it's 3 stars, but because of the vibe kind of making me feel like this is near the end of the quality of games, I'm going to go 2.5 stars. So for everything you could play right now across all home consoles, name this game is an average game, but I'll say a 2.5 star game. Oh, that's true. If you play on other levels too, it could be a different experience. All right, now let's go from an average game, but I want to play a better game on the Atari. Let's cut to the commercial to see what's the latest.
There's a sensation in playing the Reactor video game that people really get into. Good luck. Suddenly you're bombarded by atomic particles. You bounce them against the reactor's control wall. And as the reactor core expands, you face heavier particles and new dangers, culminating in the dreaded vortex.
Your turn. Me?
Reactor from Parker Brothers, the ones to beat.
All right, it's time for Reactor. Are you ready? Reactor's coming home on the Atari 2600. Here's the box for Reactor. We originally saw this in the arcades in July 1982, and it's already home that you can play at home. And based on the commercial, this looks like it rocks. This one is the 198th game that we've seen so far for the Atari 2600. And this one was ported directly by Gottlieb. Gottlieb. The 6th time we've seen this company. They did New York, No Man's Land, Reactor, and then the really popular Q*bert, and we even saw Mellow Yellow Q*bert in the arcades. This is the very first time Gottlieb came home. They did anything at home. This game beat Q*bert at home, essentially. The front of the box is just a giant explosion. That's awesome. Flip it over the back. They got lots of screenshots for us explaining how to play the game because it is a little different. It's a little unique compared to every other game you could play up to this point. It's also published by Parker Brothers, the 8th time we've seen this company doing anything on consoles because there's been lots of handhelds that they've done. Games like Star Wars, Parker Brothers published. Frogger for the Atari 2600 and the Philips Video Pack. They also did Amadar, Spider-Man, Popeye, and Super Cobra for the Philips Video Pack, at least so far that we've seen on the show. Let's see the other artwork we have for Reactor. Whoa. All right, there you go. It blows us away with the box. And then we have the ad you would have seen in magazines. Oh, coming soon. There we go. It's one home video game you can really get into. It shows more people like being in the game or a part of the game. So cool. There's the cartridge. This is another one that's 4 kilobytes in size, the standard size for cartridges on your Atari. So 4 kilopower. Bring it on. And there's the example of the screenshot. All right, we have the manual for Reactor. How do we play this? Positrons, neutrinos, photons. These are just a few of the nuclear particles threatening to blow your ship apart. There's nowhere to run, no way of escaping. To survive, you must fight them. But that's only half the battle. While you destroy these dangerous particles, you must also try to stop the reactor's expanding core before it reaches meltdown. So board your ship and prepare to enter the awesome depths of Reactor. Very similar to how they described it in the arcades. The object of the game is to destroy as many nuclear particles as you can before they smash your ship into the kill wall and knock down as many sets of control rods as possible to stop the meltdown. It explains how to set everything up, and then the joystick is firmly plugged into the jacks in the back of your video system, and then you fly your ship all around in 8 different directions, all digital directions of your joystick. You can press the red button to release the decoys, which means there's a feature in the arcade missing already that I can see that we don't get to do. All we do is move and then use one button to use the decoys. It shows a screenshot of what it's like inside the reactor, where the kill walls are, and then how you can play. Each player receives 3 ships and 3 decoys. Only 1 ship will appear on the screen at a time, and the remaining ships are indicated in the top right of the screen. The number of decoys appear in the top center, and the enemy particles that are not yet on the screen are indicated in the top left. So it explains how to start the game. I don't think they explained difficulty. Okay, we have the difficulty switch to switch between 1-player and 2-player difficulty. But there's really position A and B. That's all they have. There's not any switch to or game variations. Is this it? This is the game variations are leaving us. I don't believe it. It explains how to destroy the enemy particles. You just gotta move your joystick around and bump them all. Inside the reactor, there's also sets of control rods on one side to the right. These rods control the intensity of the nuclear reaction within the reactor's core. To stop the meltdown, you have to try to smash these rods with enemy particles, and then it explains the solid core and then the bonus chambers. Those are the 2 on the bottom left and bottom right. During these games, they'll alternate between the top and bottom, and then they leave bonus chambers. Essentially, it's how to score bonus points. When we saw this in the arcades, the way that they broke down the score was astronomical. There was so much. There was like a giant grid explaining the score, and so I expected to be here in the manual, this massive score. So that explains what decoys do. The neutrinos, positrons, and all the particles start hovering around your decoy, how to attack enemy particles. And then if you play with the vortex mode, levels 3, 4, 7, and 8. Okay, so there is game selection. Thank you. I thought it was all gone. The vortex expands and the round begins. You got your ship too close to this violently spinning center, kind of like the gravity when we played all those classic space war games. And then the round progressions keep going after that. Here it is. Yes, this is what I was looking for. The giant grid. Okay, it's not about the score, though. This is just about the rounds and what you're expected to play. This is epic. Look at it. Look at this. It's so much information about the different levels. And then your game ends when the particles have destroyed all your ships. In other words, the point of the game is you get a high score. And you tell all your friends that you got such and such score, because that's why we play. If you play a 2-player game, or in 4 2-player games, you're going to alternate turns. So you're going to do hot seat, arcade, multiplayer. You do not get to play at the same time. There's the scoring over there on the right side, and then you get a bonus for every 10,000 points. Very well done. Parker Brothers manuals always have some good stuff. Oh, and there it is. Down at the very bottom in the back, it shows you the game selection. So we have games 1 through 8, whether we're going to do Vortex or not. Looks like 1 and 3 is what we'll try out this time. So we also have a PAL version. We're going to pop in the first. In North America, this is Reactor by Charlie Heath. Way to go, Charlie. Gottlieb and Parker Brothers. It's December 15th, 1982. This is the very first time we've seen Charlie Heath on the show. And he's going to go on to do some ports for the Apple II and then games on MS-DOS and Windows. So we're expecting to see this guy later on. All right, so here we go. Game modes, look at the top. We got game mode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm just going to go with game mode 1 and reset. And we're in. I am the flashing green. Oh, it's like some inertia part of your... That's so cool. I I can just bump them, right? Yeah, because there's no super... All you're doing is move the joystick around, but wow, the control is really cool. The way that you move around the screen to bump all the neutrinos, make sure they're hitting the control rods, and don't hit the kill wall or you die. We already lost our first life, but the reactor in the middle is getting slowly bigger and bigger. Very nice presentation. We even have killer sound effects. Very nice. Different types of particles, but essentially you want to stay alive. The reactor, the center core, will not hurt you. So you can kind of hug the reactor, get them to bump on the sides, and make sure they get destroyed, and try to bump them into the control rods. The rods are those pixels on the far right and left side. Over there. Very nice. Whoa. He already bumped in and got me. But I'm loving the control. All you're doing is moving around your pixels on the screen, but the way that it moves is very well done. Let's go ahead and deploy a decoy, see if we can get one down here for some extra points. There we go. See if you can get him to bounce in on the bottom left to get some bonus points too. Looks pretty good. Put another one over here. See if he'll blow up. There we go. And then whenever you complete that, you see the core gets slower and you move, or down, smaller, and then we move to the next level. Very nice. Oh, that's a good idea. Put one right there. Yeah, there we go. And I put another... No, I'm out of decoys. So if you look at the top, we have 0 decoys. We're on our last life. Let's just get this guy, shoot him off, and pop that. Awesome. Very nice. So we call this the bump attack, and we mentioned this when we were playing the Reactor in the arcade. There's not a whole lot of games that are using this element. One of the more recent ones that we played that wasn't Reactor in the arcade was a game called Bubbles. Very similar. You're a bubble that grows larger and larger with certain things, but then other ones you can bump into them to destroy them after you get powered up. We saw that in the arcade by Williams. And so this element of just moving around to bump things is still pretty fresh. There's not a whole lot that's doing that. Oh yeah, great advice. That works very nice. So I'm already pretty impressed. Playing this in the arcades was a breath of fresh air, something new, something different. And here at home, they did a very well done port. This is already playing really well. It's changed up a little bit from what we saw in the arcades, but not too much. It's actually working very well. It's got the difficulty levels, and I also wanted to show off, we're racking up a really good score. I'm on my last life. I'm going to die on this life so I can show you the vortex, because that's what really makes that I gain an extra. Yeah, I gain an extra at 10,000. Very nice. Keep racking it up. The game also takes place on a subatomic level. Another game that we played in the arcades that reminds me of this is Quantum by Atari. At least trying to pretend you're playing a game that's taking place with that you're so tiny. All right, so let's go ahead and just die. Go in the kill wall. Wow. Very, very nice. Okay, so let's go with game mode 3 now. And you can see the center has a vortex, which that's what happens if you get sucked into the vortex. Let's go ahead and put one down over on this side. Yeah, the difficulty's completely new now, so you don't get sucked into the center of the screen. You can't hug the reactor. And those kill walls are tricky. But the control is great. Very well done. I mean, essentially, you are just moving your joystick around to control. Got it. But it works very, very well. Should have been ported to the Atari 5200 unless there's a homebrew out there, because I can imagine this being awesome with the trackball. Should have done the other side. Yeah. That's true, Jay Mogler. It is very like abstract gameplay. And here on Chronologically Gaming, seeing and playing every game, something that's abstract is awesome. All right, who's next? Did we already die? Oh, we already got the end of our score there. Sweet. So this one differs just a little bit from what we saw in the arcades, and this is the 90th video game that we've played a port of that is different from the arcade. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. If it's an enhancement, we usually point those out, but just a difference from the port, this is another example of that. And some of the other port games we've seen where the port is different than the arcade. Space Invaders on the Atari 2600 that we've already mentioned has that. Let's go in again. As well as Asteroids, Pac-Man, Defender, Marauder when it was ported from computers. Lock and Chase was a little different on the Atari. Mousetrap 2. Darn, they got me. I love that flash, though. Donkey Kong's port was very different. Vanguard on the Atari. Frogger, Jawbreaker. Zaxxon was very different. A totally different perspective. Atlantis on the Intellivision was an example of an enhanced port when they brought it to the Intellivision, as well as Demon Attack on the Intellivision. Dungeon Quest on MS-DOS was an enhanced port as well. And then Super Cobra on the Video Pack was a very different, definitely not enhanced port of Super Cobra. Yeah, I love that. Weirding your parents out because they look at the game and they go, "What's happening? What's the point?" I love that. So if you didn't remember when we played this back on the arcade, I was so young then.
And
this is
fantastic.
Reactor in the
It's
arcade,
just
and
enough
listen
to push it over
to
the top.
sound.
And if you notice that they're showing you the score in the next part of the attract mode, but here's the best part. If you push any of the buttons, it'll give you hints, and then it starts the tunes.
Oh, yeah.
Another arcade system that has the bass.
The sound design of the arcade
right
and
here.
even the music
I'm sure
was
they're
so
going
good.
for rock or metal, but because it's electronic, it sounds more like Kraftwerk or possibly techno. This is, I would argue,
Yeah, we're
the best
seeing double.
song or best sounding song we've heard from any video game ever up to this point. Just because of that bass thumping in the background. And it's explaining everything about how to play the game. And look,
So as it was going through, a reminder of the differences. There's no energy button like in the arcades. So the Atari version only has the decoy button. There's also no voices talking to us, and there's no music. They did try. They tried to put some music on the Atari 2600, but it is so good. The Reactor music is some of the best ever that we've seen to this point. All right, so out of all the games you could play right now across all home consoles, what is Reactor? Over in the chat, I see, 4 is coming in. It's a 4 spread right now. If you're rating it 4, you're saying that this is not just above average, this is excellent. This is a very good game, a very well done game for all home consoles right now in December 1982. Jeremiah's 3.5. Devo guy saying 4 as well. A lot of love for Reactor. There's another 4 from Mark and 3.5. Great. So right now, of all the games you could play across all home consoles, I was thinking between 3.5 and 4 as well. Did anyone go just average? Did anyone just say 3 or the 2.5, 3 range? I don't think so. Reactor is that good. It is really, really well done, and it's unique and different, and usually we give a little higher score if it's not trying to copy or be a variant of other games. So yeah, I'm going to respond in kind. Of all the games you could play across all home consoles, we're going 4 stars for Reactor on the Atari. All right, after that, before we do our next game, just imagine that you're a nerd in Japan, you're on a home computer, and it's time to play a new video game, and you're going to go on your computer. What's the game that you're going to play? It's our very next release. The next video game is Sokoban for the NEC PC-8801 for something completely different, because we play games all over the place. Here we go, it's Sokoban. This is the 18th video game we've seen for the PC-8801, and we lump in both the 8001 series and the 8801 series. This one is first released, Sokoban's first released on the PC-8001. Sokoban actually started as a hobby project by Hiroyuki Imabayashi. He was messing around on his NEC PC-8001 in his spare time, just building a logic puzzle for fun. No big studio, no arcade ambitions, just boxes, walls, and very unforgiving rules. It took off more than he expected, and that success led him to found Thinking Rabbit. There it is. Thinking Rabbit. It's a company focused on smart, thoughtful games. What we're playing now is the PC-8801 version. That's where Sokoban really solidified itself into the classic everyone recognizes. Same simple idea, tighter, more polished, and absolutely brutal if you don't think ahead. And the other artwork I have is just the screenshot for what Sokoban is. So let's put in that cassette and play Sokoban for the NEC PC-8801 by Hiroyuki Imabayashi and Thinking Rabbit. It's December 15th, 1982. This is the very first video game that we've ever seen by Thinking Rabbit. And we're going to have to do a little bit of translation-ish things for the game. In fact, you know what I'm going to do is show you a translation so you can see the screen for yourself. So as you see the first screen, the screen's translated to Sokoban, which is essentially warehouse worker. And you've started a part-time job with a large warehouse company. Your job is to organize 20 warehouses. You must tidy up the warehouses. The packages are so large that you can only push them one at a time. If you do a bad job, the luggage will get jammed. Please be very careful, and it explains the controls down at the bottom. And then whenever you finish putting all the luggage on the red dot, you push the F1 key to move to the next screen. Sounds like everyone's played this before, and this is the very first time we've seen this game on Chronologically Gaming. This is also the very first game in the Sokoban series, because we're going to see other Sokoban-style games later on, too. This game is single-player only because Hiroyuki Imabayashi knows that you're a nerd and you have no friends. We're going to play this all by ourselves. So the first screen could roughly translate to how many players, but it really is only a single-player game. What this means is it's asking us what level we want to play, because we have 20 screens we could choose from, or 20 levels, and you can actually pick and select the level you want right here. So I'm going to start with we're going to do level 1. Start with level 1. And there's our title screen with Sokoban explaining the game that I already read or translated. The controls are keyboard only. There's no joysticks. You're going to use the 5, 1, 2, and 3 key to move around and move your character. And they have a little side note on the side. All right, so press any key to play. Let's play some Sokoban, or press space to play. The reason we didn't check out the PC-8001 is because it was more like a hobby one, not an official release. This is the first official release of Sokoban. Okay, so the controls are really simple. You're just moving up, down, left, and right, and there's my little worker that can move around. The very first version of Sokoban is this. There's no timer. There's no steps taken. There's all these advancements they add later, but this is just so simple. You move over here on the right side. Look, these are where the dots are. We have to move all the luggage. There's also no music or sound. If I push against a wall, I'm not going to get any sound effects, but you essentially need to get all the luggage on this side over to where the red dots are. Ready? Carefully move around, and you have to make sure you get the blocks in the right spot. I had heard of the term Sokoban before seeing and playing this, and I have played the puzzle push block movement in so many other games that I didn't know that there was just a bare bones Sokoban. Like, this is the whole game until doing this show. So here it is. This is the very first time someone was going to sit down at their computer and just play Sokoban all by itself like this. Yes, isn't this amazing? There's no time limit. There's no score attack. It's just, can you get the luggage to the right spot and in the level? That's it. That's all that you're tasked to do. It is very relaxing. Considering all the other arcade Twitch games that we've played, this is awesome. Okay, nice and easy. No sudden movements. I can get it all the way down here at the end. Very nice. And they even have little animations. Notice when I move up and down and left and right, they switch up the way the guy looks. Very nice. All right, very careful, nice and easy. There we go. This is the first level out of 20 that are possible to play. I'm not going to chance it. I'm going to move it down here. Because once you put up a block in the wrong spot, guess what? It's over. If, for example, I accidentally pushed this block to the far corner, then it would just lock the game and then you wouldn't be able to finish the level. But there it is. Once you finish, you push F1 and it goes, "You've done it. Way to go." And then you want to move to the next level. We say yes. And so then it loads the second level. And then you move on from there and you go level by level and see how many levels that you can complete. As time goes on and you keep playing the game, it is going to get progressively more and more difficult. As you can see, this is already much more difficult than the last one that we played. So if I go here, I should be able to go like this and then move up like this. There we go. Looking okay. There we go. I'm getting it. And the levels actually, once you get past level 10, if you complete level 10, and bear in mind, you can go select the level and try it out yourself. But all the levels after 10 start introducing something that's only in the original Sokoban, and that is invisible walls. Or walls that you can tear down that you don't know. Right now, all the walls are walls, and there's nothing you can do about them. But in the other levels, they're so difficult that they have walls that can be broken that you don't know until you push against them. So you'll get to a place where you look at the map, and it doesn't make any sense. That's because you're supposed to tear down and break the walls apart. From my understanding, there's no other Sokoban levels that have done that, where they essentially nerfed it. After this was so difficult, adding those walls, the rest of the versions don't have that. But we're looking pretty good. So level 2's working all right. And I love the idea that there's no pressure to try to complete this at a certain time, or there's no pressure to get to the next level. You can try out the other levels if you want to. It's great. It's just to boast. Did you finish Sokoban? Whatever level after that. So very different experience. And that's kind of what we see when we play all the computer games here on Chronologically Gaming. There is so much more. How do I get this? Oh, this one. There's so many more video game experiences that you wouldn't find on home consoles or handhelds on the computer. The computer right now is where we find all text adventure games or interactive fiction games. The home computer is also where we find all the strategy war games. Now, granted, there was, I think, one that we saw for the Atari 2600 that was based on Star Trek, but it's very rare. Most of the time when you play games like this or see games like this, wait a second. All right, let me see if I can weasel my way out of this. All right. No, I think I lost because this one's going to push. If you push the block up against another block, then that's the end. So I think I already messed up because now it's hard to do a demonstration and play at the same time. It looks like there's not a way to get this one. I guess I can move another one over. Yeah, does everyone else see that it's busted? I already busted up level 2. Let's see, because if I push down, it's not going to work. If I go... Yeah, there's no way to go across. That's it. So I could go here and then move that one around. All right, yeah, not going to work. That one in the corner is not going to happen. Then you move on to the next level. So then it says, oh, you want to move to the next one? You say yes. So we messed it up, but we can reset anytime we want. So if they're not in the right spot, you can push F1 and then it just resets the room and then you try again. Great fun. Very, very interesting. And if you think about the simplicity of just a puzzle game compared to every other game we've seen up to this point, it'd be interesting to point out what kind of reference or frame we've seen with puzzle games here on Chronologically Gaming. So let's do it. Here's some of the best puzzle games that you could have been playing right now on, or that we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming. Sokoban marks the 150th puzzle video game that we've seen on the show, and that's on all systems all over the world. This is the 106th puzzle game that we've seen on all home computers thus far. So how does this simple game and concept that we've seen, that we're going to see in so many other games later, how does it compare to everything we've seen up to this point? So some of the best puzzle games that you could play that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming have been Escape from the Mind Master, available on the Atari 2600. Imagine that. One of the best puzzle games we've seen is on the Atari 2600. It's also supercharged. We do play all handhelds, and one of the best handheld puzzle games you can play is Simon. Everyone loves Simon. In the arcades, we saw a game called Sundance, which wouldn't be technically a Twitch arcade game. It was a puzzle game. Used a full number pad, too. Very interesting. Another one in the arcades we saw was called Steelworker, which was the origins of Lemmings, or kind of the beginning of Lemmings. Very, very intriguing. Then, back on the Atari 2600, we saw the Atari Video Cube puzzle game. In the arcades, we then saw Checkman, which is going to be copied and cloned a few other times. At home, on the Texas Instruments home computer, we saw the graphical version of Hunt the Wumpus, which was very well done. And then Maze Craze, and all those maze games, where you're not in a maze like Pac-Man, like an arcade, you're just needing to solve the maze. This is the game Maze Craze, a game of cops and robbers on the Atari 2600. On the Atari home computer, we saw a game called Quintominos. Very well done puzzle game, and is the origins of like proto Tetris. Then Rocky's Boots is an educational puzzle game. On the Atari home computer also is Snark Hunt, a very well done original puzzle game. Flip Out is another really original one for the Apple II. Grid Trap on the Commodore VIC-20 is essentially Checkman that you could play at home. In the arcades, we saw Hard Hat, which is a very cool, interesting puzzle game, kind of action-ish, just a little bit. That's Hard Hat. And then Laser Maze is a really fun one on the Apple II, where you're meant to shoot a laser and it bounces off different places to hit the other side. In the arcades, we also saw Locomotion, which is essentially just a sliding puzzle. And at home, that version was ported called Mouse Puzzle on the VTech Creativision. Then we saw a game called Pinquirial Mazes on the Apple II, which is another very strange isometric maze game. So we've seen our fair share of maze-style games and puzzle games, but Sokoban's interesting because Sokoban has you pushing blocks and moving blocks around. We've already seen some games which have blocks moving or pushing, and the origins for that start with Dig Dug. This is the example that we saw on the Sword M5, and Dig Dug has that one block or boulder that whenever you move it out of the way, it drops down to the bottom. Not moving in a way like Sokoban, but it's the start. Another example we saw was the Pit in the arcade, where you were able to move those blocks, a lot more of them than Dig Dug had. Mr. Do also copies that concept with the cherries that drop down. And then this game, Sokoban, may have been influenced by another game called Super Frenel that we saw for the Sharp X1 home computer, which was a ripoff of Dig Dug. But if you really want to compare this to games we've seen before, you can't ignore Pingo. Pingo is what we've seen in the arcades, where you're moving the ice around, not necessarily like Sokoban. It's not puzzle, it's still an arcadey style game, but you are having to push and move those ice blocks around. But even closer than that was a game on the Atari home computer we saw called Intruder. Intruder, every one of those pieces needs to be moved and manipulated around. You are moving all of them around to try to capture robots. Not executed very smoothly or well, but you are pushing them around. But for my money, of all the games we've seen so far, the biggest influence and reference that this has got to be Aldebaran. And I don't know if Aldebaran is a true influence or not, but Aldebaran has you moving people around to avoid like this outbreak, and you have to arrange them and move them around the screen, and so possibly could have been a big influence for this game. So while you look at this and you see the simplicity of playing every single video game and seeing every video game up to this point, this is still a cool idea or a fresh idea, and it's just so simple, executed so simply, and there's not any other games that is directly trying to give you an objective, except Aldebaran, of pushing and moving things around and getting them to line up at a certain spot. And this is just quality, a core puzzle game, just done very, very well. It's also a pacing that's different too. Someone mentioned very zen. I like that as well. All right, so the controls are very simple. Of all the games you could play across all home computers, and someone mentioned they weren't going to rate this one, but you gotta say of everything you could play across all home computers, it is different and it's original, and there's not as many like puzzle games like that are just pure puzzle like this. I'm gonna have to go with of all the games you could play across all home computers. Oh, look at that! James is throwing out 4.5 or 5. That means you're saying it's one of the best games you could play across all home computers right now. Now, this very first version, this bare bones version of Sokoban is just 20 levels. You move, you try to solve the puzzles, and you saw that you can switch between the levels if you want to, and that's it. Yeah, right, for this genre. Yeah, you would have been addicted to try to solve all of them. It's so cool. Oh, wow, we're getting some really high ratings. Higher than I thought. The chronologically gaming influence is strong this episode. 4.5 to 5 from James. 4.5 from Marshall. Yeah, because we usually base it on genre, too. The other one that we played called Intruder wasn't really done so well. And then Mark's also thrown out 4.5 stars as well. I was actually thinking between 4 and 4.5, but 4.5 is in the range of saying this is one of the best games you could play across all home computers. And that's a good point. The only thing comparable would be Aldebaran, but it had other elements to it as well. This is classic, this is pure, and yes, the influence is strong. I'm going to go with the same. Sokoban is 4.5 stars. Of all the games you could play across all home computers, it's that good. But we're not done. We also have another port that was available right now in 1982. It's Sokoban for the Fujitsu FM-7. If you're expecting something bizarre or different, it's the same game. Now we have the cassette case for Sokoban. Now for the Fujitsu FM-7. This marks the 11th time we've seen a game for this home computer, and we're going to get to load the cassette. Thanks, Thinking Rabbit, the second game from Thinking Rabbit after the last port. This one also has a later release or a more vertical box. I don't know if this is, if you like turn the cassette case on its side, but there it is. And it's even showing the level we were stuck on the last time we played it. There's level 2 right there. Very nice. There's the spine and there, yes, the cassette for Sokoban. No translations this time. Let's just go and play Sokoban by Hiroyuki Imabayashi. It's December 15th, 1982. Not that this was released like exactly when that one was, but we're going to have to go a little bit fun for this one and actually load the cassette. So bear with me one sec. We get to hear the sweet sounds of the cassette loading. We're going to see this game ported to several other Japanese home computers next year in 1983 with the same bare bones format of 20 levels, limited attempts, no visual level editor. And apart from the editing basic code directly, this version has a surprise for players familiar with the rule set established by later games. Levels 11 through 20 feature demolishable walls, which appear as regular ones but are destroyed by approaching from a specific direction. And this game's going to get additional levels that are going to be published by Shinki Gensha's PC Magazine as type in code. So it's going to get like DLC or it's getting upgrades. It's pretty cool. All right, so there we go. Ready? And now we finished the load. And bear in mind, that was hundreds of times faster than before. All right, ready? And go. There we go. Even on the Fujitsu FM-7, it looks exactly like the NEC PC-8801. Yeah, no, this first bare bones version, I can understand you rating it lower. There we got Jay Mogler with 3.5 stars. Very nice. All right, so same controls. Hit the space key. However, if you look at the FM-7 keyboard, there are 3 space keys. Which space key is it? We'll just pick one and then go. All right, we're in. Yes. Okay, same controls. 1 moves to the left, 3 moves to the right, 2 moves down, and 5 moves up. Nice. So you got like a little D-pad down there. And this version, wait, it didn't ask for the level, right? I don't think it did. I think it just started us on 1. Interesting. I wonder if this means, yeah, you have to play through each one and you can't select the level. And that's possible then that the version we played on the PC-8801 was an updated or later release, because I don't think it asked us this time which level we want to play on. Man, that must be infuriating. Can you imagine getting to level 11 and you don't know that the walls can be demolishable? like the rule set changes, that would drive someone crazy. Or especially if you get to your computer, you've been playing the game and you get through levels 1 through 10, then finally you get to 11 and it doesn't make any sense and it doesn't work, and then you find out later that the walls are demolishable. That would drive someone crazy. All right, let's just go all the way and finish this. Yeah, so this is great. In fact, think of one of your favorite video games for the Nintendo Entertainment System or the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis. Majority of the time, you've played a Sokoban-like part of that game, because that's how popular this kind of game is. And amazing that we haven't seen too many examples of someone trying to copy this exact formula. It still removes the dots. You're supposed to remember the dot locations. That's pretty tricky too. Whatever they showed up at the beginning, that's what you need to do for next time. Here we go. Looking good. And like I explained, later iterations are going to have a level editor where you can make your own Sokoban levels. This one does not have that. It's just complete. Simple. Very cool. All right, so we won't keep going with Sokoban, but that's the kind of gameplay you're going to go for. And this mode is basically, the Fujitsu FM-7 is so identical. I'm just going to rate it the same. Yeah, 4.5. Jeremiah's with me there. 4.5 stars for Sokoban. All right, that's where we got to put all the video game playing on pause. Thanks so much, everyone that's been joining me and hanging out for the whole episode, all the way to the end, seeing it to the very end. It feels really fun to be able to play every single video game in order of release and see this evolution of games going, and I appreciate everyone that's here along for the ride, whether you've been tuning in, seeing all the past videos, or you're here right now live on the show. A big shout out also to everyone that's on our Patreon supporting the show financially. Thanks so much for your support. Well, next time on Chronologically Gaming, will we find the Sword of Roshan, Thunder Bombs on the Apple II, and the newest ColecoVision game is ported from the arcade. That's it for today, and like I always say, sometimes the simplest idea can make a great video game. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and be a Chronologically Gaming influencer, rating the games as we play them. This video wouldn't be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and Main. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every video game. We have links down below that give more information on the games we played this episode, as well as our Discord and Patreon. There's a link called All the Games We Have Played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are perpetually retro, and we will catch you next time.